There was not a good time.
Actually, I just wanted to contribute a thought, and that is, I perceive that we're talking about this from the a standpoint of an employee relationship instead of an entrepreneurial or business owner relationship. And I believe the ability of AI to enable people to start their own businesses and to utilize it to be more effective, efficient, knowledgeable, and cooperative is huge. People buy from people. And I believe AI is going to allow people coming out of school to start a business, to find ways to network and build these relationships with others and with other skill sets and provide a much more meaningful service. That's
You follow
my
John
perception.
Barrows, Andy?
No, I don't.
I would encourage you to follow him on LinkedIn.
Okay.
He just put something out on he just posted something that I think is going to open a lot of people's eyes. Like
John Burrows, B-O-R-R-O.
Barrows, B-A-R-O.
Okay.
R-R-W-O-S. Barrows.
O-W-S.
Yes, he's going to be, we're going to do a series with him. A webinar series. It's a combination of what we're doing with him and Roost.
He has 1 or 2 followers, as you can see, Andy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So he and I are very good friends. We go back literally 20 years. He was my VP of sales at Thrive Networks when I was CEO there.
Awesome.
And
well, so I'm trying to say, I think AI
he's basically created an AI version of himself.
Yeah, this was pretty cool. This one.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to do this webinar and just like tell your friends and peers. It's going to be really. He's studying and has studied this. This is, by the way, this is him in AI.
Yep.
Again, so this is a guy that's thinking, as a trainer, this like Salesforce, LinkedIn, those are his clients, right? He works with MSPs again, because he comes from, as Jim said, the cloth, right? He was Jim's first CRO, but he's really, really focused in on what this is going to do, and that's what we're going to talk about in these first three webinars coming up next week.
Good.
So
thanks for bringing up the topic.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating. I think it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna impact us. I think, like Jim, you were saying, I think for MSPs, it's a net positive. When you think about, like, I already can know of some stuff that, for ticketing, like I'm already seeing phenomenal automation that's going to start to come out on that can move far more rapidly than an engineer, search databases far faster, and allow engineers to go up the stack, if you will, in terms of what they're working on. It's going to very much be like how RMM was early on, where you're, instead of patching server after server after server, right, mundane things, well, just do this. Account locked out. Okay, well, do you want to do this? Do you want to check this and this? Do you want to respond to the customer this way? Those types of things, or if you have a SOC, right? Let's just say you needed to hire 3 SOC analysts. Probably don't need to. Probably need 1. And in essence, AI searching all the algorithms of the metadata coming through from your tools. Chip, could you see that, by the way, happening?
Absolutely. Yeah. So have we ever done a poll on this call on how many of our partners are actively using one of the AI products in their business today? I'd be really curious about that. But Andrew, what I can see is, I think one of the things that at least I remember from my days as an active MSP, one of the things that technicians, the technical people in general, really hate. I'm not one of them, by the way. I don't fall into this category, but they hate to write. They don't like writing stuff to their clients. They don't like writing documentation. They don't like writing knowledge base articles. Right now, at the state that we are in AI, it will literally do all of it for you. And any of our MSPs on this call that are not already taking advantage of that, like, you've got to be. You've got this task that almost no one in your organization wants to do. And ChatGPT or Bard from Google or OpenAI, if you use that side of the product, will just do it for you in seconds. Like, spit out anything, including, a custom email to a particular customer over a situation that you might find kind of tricky and you don't know how to word it. It'll spit it out for you. You might have to polish it a little bit and add change a little bit of grammar here or there, or change a name or something else, but it just takes the burden off of something that most MSPs hate doing, and you should be using it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get to the point where no one's going to know how to write.
Well, I think we're already at that point.
It's going to get way worse.
Hey, you're speaking to MSPs. Who knows how to write? We got to use AI to do it. I mean, I learned that you had to write like a journalist. Start with the headline and work our way backwards instead of writing like an essay in high school, right? It was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I stopped probably thinking about this topic in a professional sense. So just for context, again, I just turned 50 last month, right?
Sorry, I was laughing at Josh.
I just turned 50 last month, and look, I've got probably 10 more years left of working. I've made some money, and I'll definitely make more. I'll be fine, right? I'm not thinking about this in terms of how it's going to affect my career and my earnings, right? I'm thinking about much longer term, and specifically in the context of my 18-year-old son.
Yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. I for this call, for MSPs on here, we'll do more. We'll bring John on. We'll start, we'll start bringing, or I should ask you guys, why for yes and for no. Would you like us to bring in some folks that understand this really well, and how it might be able to help your business? Okay, cool. Jim, we haven't seen you in a few weeks.
I know.
Welcome back. Anything from the CEO chair that you want to impart with us?
Well, I just got back from vacation, so thank you everyone for holding down the fort for the last couple of weeks. Really appreciate it. And I was at a couple events and stuff like that before that. So yeah, it's been a while since I've been on this call, so I'm super pumped to be back and see everyone on. Not really. I mentioned the reviews that we've now have on channel program, which is great. And for those that haven't, by the way, two things: filled out our survey. We put out in the newsletter a customer survey or a partner survey to really understand where the gaps are in the understanding in our product. This, obviously we love to see the data, but the data that we collect is essentially meant to help us better educate you. And also it gives you the opportunity to have an impact on what we do on a go-forward basis. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, if you haven't taken the 5 minutes to fill it out, if you could do that, that would be awesome. It was in the newsletter that we put out yesterday. And then the only other thing that we need to talk about too is the Cool Rules Challenge. So Michelle and I talked yesterday, and one of the things we want to highlight is the fact that is coming to an end. It closes on the 31st. We've got some really good submissions so far, but I know that there are a bunch of folks on this call that are more than qualified to put some really good rules together that haven't submitted anything yet. So
you want to call anybody out, Jim?
We all know who they are, and you know who you are. So I would just highly recommend getting some stuff in, so you have an opportunity to win those prizes.
Very good.
So that's pretty much it.
Right.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, of course. Chip, you and Lebron, anything in the product side talk about this week or coming that we might want to talk about next week, or anything new?
Still the same stuff on the coming side. We're already, deep at work on the upgraded versions of Unify. More stuff coming out for Respond. We've talked about Fortify here in the past. That is well underway. I'm not ready to say ahead of schedule yet, but in a call or two, I might be willing to make that declaration. We've made some massive changes in our APIs that will be published completely to the universe early next week, probably by Monday. There are some partners that are testing those now, but we dramatically expanded what partners can do. with our API, added several different types of webhook APIs, additional functions for using SaaS alerts as a back-end tool and not so much a front-end tool for those partners who want to take advantage of that. So always a lot of development activity going on, not a ton of it that's immediately facing.
Very, very good. Sorry, I had to mute myself with the landscaper coming by here on the blower. Michelle, you had a few things on the marketing side. Let me go to you.
I did. Well, the first was the Cool Rules Challenge, but Jim already covered that, so thank you. We also have another webinar coming up with our NCA team on June 13th. It's about prospecting smarter, not harder. And we're going to talk about using reports to help sell your SaaS security. So it's really good if you're struggling with prospecting, or if you don't love it, they'll help you out with that. It's at 1 p.m. I'm going to drop the link in here so you have it. Just make sure. And they'll talk about ways to, address objections and just kind of, talk to the client in a way that resonates with them. They're going to understand why your services are super important. So that'll be another really good one to be on if, for selling that. And then the other thing I have is the partner referral program. That was in the newsletter, but I just want to remind you, let me put that in there too. If you refer a friend that's an MSP, not just like your neighbor, to SaaS alerts, I know I'm like, oh, my friend, and they sign a price log guarantee with us, you will get $500 in MDF funds and $100 gift card. So all you have to do is fill out that form, let them know that we'll be reaching out to them so they're not surprised, and then we'll take it from there. And that's all.
Very good. And Adam is wondering about UK times, holding these earlier.
You're the boss, Andrew. But
okay.
Was it webinars, or I think it's?
Yeah, I was going to say, Adam, do you mean the SaaS call, which is obviously at 6 p.m. your time? I get that, but do you mean webinar? Because most webinars, SaaS alerts aside, are like 2 p.m. Eastern US, because of course, being, we only care about North America, and I'm being facetious and partly not facetious, because that's how everything's viewed is, are we going to get California in at 8 a.m.? But Adam, what were you thinking, and which ones? Just so
I appreciate that. I appreciate that 7 billion people don't exist, so it's only
of course, right?
Only a few hundred in North America. So I mean, it was the webinars that you've just posted there, Michelle, really, because I know it's there 1 p.m. Eastern time as well. It just makes it hard for people in Europe to attend these things, which I get is the problem of not being in the US. So
we can certainly talk, with our team to see if we could do a second one, or we'll figure some stuff out for you guys.
Yeah.
And they are recorded.
Yeah, exactly. How do you feel about the recording? Is that something that you'd rather do it live, or?
No, I mean, it depends, I guess. If it's interactive, then clearly live is better, but recordings are useful as well. I mean, different folks do them at different times of the day. I know, Andrew, you were involved in the Cyber CNS ones, which were earlier in the afternoon. So, you got to cater for the majority, and I appreciate I'm probably the only UK person on the call. So
probably on this one, but we do have a fair amount of UK partners at this point, and we also have probably a couple dozen partners down under as well at this point. So all factors in the equation.
Yeah, we don't care about those in Australia.
I know, they're your outcasts.
Yeah, they're all ex-convicts.
Yes.
Too funny. Okay. All right. So we have done 2 weeks of tabletops. I hope those have been helpful. Ben, thanks again last week. That was awesome having you do that. A day or two later, I forget the exact day, I posted something on LinkedIn and it was on phishing as a service. Talk about automation. It's amazing how threat actors are, using automation. I'm not sure if anybody has had a chance to see the post I made or has heard about this threat group. Let's just call it Greatness. They're termed. They offer a phishing as a service platform. It is highly targeted on the US. We're going to talk about it today, and Chip and I are going to kind of walk through kind of the how it works, the kill chain. And then as we're doing this, I'd love it if you guys could think about how we could kit up something for you to go deliver a tabletop with your customers. So at the end, quote unquote, not at the exact end, but somewhere, let's just say 10 minutes remaining, if we have it, we'll bring on the marketing team from SaaS Alerts and kind of get a thought from you guys on, what kind of things might you need, what kind of assets. Also, as you keep in mind, as I've spoke about many times, our customers, your customers really don't care about security or technology. They care about their business, and they care about revenue, clients. At the end of the day, think about what's on their mind as we look at this. The end result is, how do we get them to care, right? How do we get them to care about it from their business perspective, not the fact that it's a threat, a new threat, another threat, because again, that's not moving the needle, right? So does that make sense, Jim, from your vantage point as I frame that out?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
All right, so Chip, let me bring this up. Let's kind of walk through our friends at Greatness. Now, this was originally, and I'll put some links in there, Nico, no problem. Just let me kind of get going here with Chip, and I'll toggle back and forth. Hope it's okay. It's okay. I don't. Well, I'll put it in PowerPoint slide mode for just play from current slide. Okay, so when I always like to say, you may not be a fan of Cisco, like, oh, they're big, they're enterprise, this and that. But I will say, if Talos speaks, you want to listen. They have arguably I would consider them and Mandiant the best threat intel teams, period. And so when Talos puts out an advisory, it certainly perks my ears up, which they did. And so a little bit about Greatness. They have a very full feature product, Chip. This is like, if you guys were on the cyber call, probably about I don't know if it was a year ago, I had one on dark utilities, which was basically a platform for threat actors. It's RMM for threat actors. This is basically a phishing kit, fully functional, that as you'll see shortly, that you can sign up for. Chip was very close to signing up for it with an alias, right, Chip, to see how everything worked?
I'm certainly thinking.
But it is almost, for lack of a better word, plug and play. It gives you a builder for your emails. It allows automated, when somebody clicks on that email and prompts them for login, it automatically downloads their image and emulates the actual 365 login. And it comes fully featured with bots to make sure that all of the connectivity stays in place and things like that. So, Chip, did I maybe get a little sarcasm there? But it is a pretty full-featured set of tools. Fair?
Yeah, you actually though missed my favorite sub tool, if you will, microservice feature of this product. Like we're gonna call it a product for the rest of the call. That it actually sets up microservices instances for you to actually run the whole scam. So I mean, basically, all you're doing is feeding it a list of email addresses, and it goes out and does the rest of the work on your behalf, including reconnaissance on the domain. So if there is a custom 365 login page, which I don't think that's common in the MSP universe, that's more an enterprise thing, but nevertheless, you know, grab the logo and everything else that we'll talk about, make it very efficient, but it actually stands up a virtual server instance for you to do all the work, which is just mind-boggling if you think about that level of automation.
Yeah. It's basically like, right, Chip, hey, I want to do a trial of this solution, right? Like, Adam, you're on here with me. Cyber CNS does this. Well, I want to trial this vulnerability scanner. Put in your creds, things are stood up in moments. Very similar. And as Chip said, feed in an Excel spreadsheet of names, go on the dark web, whatever. Here's the names that you want to go after, and it'll do the job for you. This is a piece, if you are, you know, as we start to think about this from a tabletop exercise with your customers, you know, you want to give them some relevance. Like, who is this organization focused on, right? Just maybe you can, Michelle, be my eyes because I can't see in chat, but I mean, let's just look at the top 5. Does anybody have customers? Because over 50% of the attacks are in the US, by the way. So Adam, you don't have to worry about this. That's a benefit of being in the UK. But top 5, anybody? Michelle, anybody?
I don't see anybody yet.
Manufacturing, healthcare, no? What kind of who are your clients then? All right. So Chip, let's start off with the
they're coming through now.
Oh, okay.
It's like they're just like all coming in at once. Okay. The whole left side of the list, Todd said. Ryan has clients in all of those sectors: healthcare and real estate, law, manufacturing, healthcare, a few in the top 5. So
yeah. Okay, so Chip, talk to us about like this nice little form builder they have too after you upload your emails.
Yeah, so this is your configuration page. Like, you know, you guys need to think of this like any other app that you would subscribe to, or that you would license, download, and install, however it goes about. But in this case, it's a SaaS product itself, but it's going to let you configure parameters around how you want to conduct your attack. You know, whether you want custom backgrounds and changing colors and changing titles in the page, constructing the text of the email that's going to get sent. But you know, this first step is what you're doing is you're setting up a phishing campaign that's going to be sent to the one or more that you input on a list of users who you want to target for this attack.
Yeah.
So,
and a good thing to do, maybe, you know, again, if you have I've been pwned, or, you know, if you have access to some dark web tools, take your top 10 clients, right? And maybe you start like, hey, we'd love to do a tabletop with you. Let me share with you why, right? The end result is, you know, that these are resulting in large business email compromises. These are resulting in, you know, further attacks on networks, which then lead to ransomware, data exfiltration if you're in healthcare. And again, how it impacts their business, right? This means, you know, hypothetically, you're in healthcare. This means if there's some type of exfiltration, it means we got regulators involved now. It means, you know, if you're in, you know, finance, you know, it means your reputation and your customers. And aside from business interruption and et cetera, do you have a plan for this, right? Do you have a plan if this happened, right? Just curious, yes or no, what do you think? Do most of your customers have an incident response plan and have walked through tabletops or not? What would you say? Why for yes and for no? All right, so let's continue. As you can see here, Chip, and I'll let you continue. Bill, let me let you kind of frame it out, Chip. So here's after they, you get to, you know, this is obviously Talos is generating this report, and I'll put the link in, but what's happening here?
Yeah, so So this is now step 3, right? There's an in-between incident that occurs here, which is after that configuration page. Greatness is going to send an email to your targets, and the email is going to look very professionally crafted. Of course, you had the opportunity, you can see in the messaging, to actually take its defaults for what it believes is the best language to use to phish somebody, or you can change the language around. But the end goal, if you go back a slide.
Yeah, I was just going to show here that we have it, Chip, in terms of,
Yep.
We'll get there, but go ahead.
Yep, is to get the user to click on a link. And this is very similar to an attack we've been talking about quite a bit. We've been talking about the token harvesting attack. This is a longer path, but a more sophisticated approach to achieving the same thing, which is compromising an account. So here we go. So let's say your company does have a custom Microsoft 365 login screen, or you just want to drop in and target a specific user. You can add in the logo, and they're going to present, after clicking on that link, which will say something, oh, we need you to sign into your Microsoft 365 account because someone in finance shared something really important with you about your payroll. There you go. So user clicks on it, and they're presented with this very authentic looking 365 sign in with the company's. Their email address is already populated. So right away, that gives them a higher level of confidence that this is legit. It's like, well, of course, they're not asking me to put in all my credentials. They just want my password. So off you go. You put in the password, you click sign in, and the package is sophisticated enough that if MFA is required, it's going to detect that. It's going to proxy back, and you guys all know what a proxy is, so we won't get into the details, but this is the classic evil proxy attack, right? It's going to proxy back to Microsoft that there's a login attempt occurring here, which is going to cause Microsoft to request MFA authorization, whether that's SMS or it's one-time code or however it goes about, or using Microsoft Authenticator. The users are going to go ahead and accept that because they think they're actually logging in to a real page. It's going to complete the whole cycle, and then it's actually going to log the user into 365, so they don't even have any idea that they've been phished. Meanwhile, in the background, it takes the user credentials and the token and sends it really wherever you want to go. The example they use in this Talus article is that it'll send it to your Telegram channel. So you're Mr. Hacker dude out there bouncing around, and here this lands in your Telegram account, and you can just come back a few hours after you set your nets for your phishing campaign and see what you've harvested. And there you go. You've now got a nice healthy Microsoft 365 account that started as a business email compromise. And what you do with it from there, the sky's the limit. Presumably you take all the same actions we always see people take. You're going to forward incoming messages either externally or internally. You're going to start probing around the environment of the company and getting a sense of who does what and who you can spearfish next, and what's the best kind of social engineering play that you can lay up against other targets in the company. And of course, every company has customers and vendors. So let's just continue to cast our net wider and wider and wider. And that's how this perpetrates. On and on it goes.
Yeah, and one of the things they also talked about, Chip, was using those credentials, because again, Chip, what percent, if you had to just throw a number, their O365 account is probably going to be very similar to their corporate logins and things of that nature, right? So
I mean, if it's federated, it's going to be the same, right? So if it's an ADFS federation between Azure and local AD controller, it's going to be the same credentials. So yeah, then they're in the corporate network.
Yeah, and they talk about that.
You're in a corporate network. Now you're looking to find data, exfiltrate it, and launch a ransomware attack.
Yeah, exactly. So Chip, you've shared most of this, but anything you want to highlight here as you kind of talk through the kill chain?
No, I mean, I think we've taken the kill chain. I just, the diagram is worthwhile to share, and I'm sure Andrew will share this with folks, that you can see how sophisticated this really is. Like, there's a lot of energy and effort that went into creating creating a package that can get run by script kiddies, really. You don't need any sophisticated hacking skills to do this. I mean, I think you have to know enough to cover your own tracks and, run this from a VPN in a Microsoft data center that's not in your home country, or a Google data center, or wherever you decide to do it. But, this is a software tool, just like anything any of us would buy to service our customers better. It's just being licensed and paid for the purposes of going after people.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Helen had a question in there. I want to jump back in and see what it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
It could require the victim to enter MFA. Yes, Helen, if MFA is required for the victim's login, it's smart enough to know that and proxy the entire MFA authorization chain back to Microsoft so that the victim actually gets a code, and then the victim enters the code into the tool.
Yeah, I think the part of the genius of this, Chip, is just like taking you back into your own account and thinking, well, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Right. Not realizing it's a harvesting tool, being, really about someone going to be using this later. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So here's where we need your help, and the marketing team's going to be on here with us, and certainly Amy and Michelle, feel free to chime in. But so again, we got to think about this, right? Here's this phishing attack, and if you're a business owner, like, okay, I don't have time for this, but what's the business impact? Like, why would they care? Not anything technologically. I want you to think about why this matters to their business. How about for you, your MSP? Why would it matter to your MSP if this happened to you?
We have loss of revenue and reputation in here.
So
Michelle, I sent you an image that I thought would be valuable, but you can choose to share it or not.
I'm assuming you mean loss of revenue if it was BEC or wire fraud type of thing. Is that what we're talking? I'm assuming.
Fraud, theft from Ryan's clarifying, I think.
What else? As we're clarifying. So yeah, you could have, right, someone do spear phishing, obviously, a business email compromise. That's obviously first and foremost that comes to mind for me. This is again the clients that say, we have nothing anybody would want to take, right? Well,
So,
tell me,
Andrew,
do you have a bank account?
I was going to say, isn't the real point here is that you could have the best security, and if you don't have spear phishing, will get right through it. And it doesn't matter because it can come in on multiple attack vectors. It can come in at different levels, and even in IT admin, right? You can't. This is the one place where your armor gets pierced, so to speak. And I sent an image to kind of reflect that.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Who's going to say something? Okay. And so Andy, you bring up a really good point, and this makes me think about CIS Control 17, which is incident response, which we're going to do on the Cybercast this coming week. And right, we think in general, right, that, well, we have locks on our house, we have an alarm system, and we have a gate, on our neighborhood. And so we live in a relatively safe environment. Right. We always think protective and detective controls are going to save us. But the question also is, let's say they don't. What happens?
It really, I was just expounding on this. If you think about what are the ramifications of a successful spear phishing attack, and that is not only is your business impacted, but you could be a supply chain for someone else, another business. You could be, for example, there was a lawsuit, a patient at a hospital was suing the hospital to settle ransomware because they had exposed naked pictures of her in an exam room, right? Not the hospital, but the security breachers. So this could impact in so many different ways. Reputationally, it impacts other people's lives. So when one doesn't think about the fact that spear phishing is the way in at the moment.
Oh yeah. So we got reputation, your clients, your suppliers, right? Etc.
Customers and patients, if you apply it to healthcare.
Right, if it's patients. Okay, what else?
Come on, guys. There's a huge one that's staring you right in the face.
I just think loss of productivity. I mean, like even having your entire organization now need to reset passwords or change your password management tool, or, you know, even if it's just as simple as that, there still takes time for somebody out of their day-to-day, out of the work that you've hired them to do, and now they're having to deal with something else.
Yeah.
How about lawsuits?
There it is. Litigation. Coming at you from both ends, from your customer, from their customers,
From Microsoft.
from Microsoft.
Good one. Yeah, I mean, and we certainly could expand on loss of productivity, because this gets into the whole, pulling in, when we think about litigation, I also think about it, Chip, from the perspective of, well, if a breach attorney has to get involved, right?
Cha-ching.
Right. So now all of a sudden, what are the costs of bringing in forensics, right? Because if a breach attorney gets involved, step one, and they're the least expensive part of the equation, by the way. When you bring in DFIR, digital forensic incident response, you talk to most breach attorneys, they're like, you think I charge a lot? Wait till you bring in that group. Fair, Chip?
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, it's about, again, here's people like, I don't need cyber, or, again, I don't need cyber insurance, or we have cyber insurance. It's like, okay, well, how much do you have? Because this stuff is expensive.
And will they pay because you didn't make a mistake? Right? You thought something was covered and it wasn't.
It's the potential these days lie, certainly, again, if this is one of those cases where your client's like, well, we don't want to put MFA, and that's how they breached it, or I shouldn't say breach, how the incident happened, and they said we did have MFA, yeah, of course they can deny it. They have that.
Or the other big one.
What's that, Chip?
Client doesn't want to engage in or pay for phishing training. Something that I hope we all do. I mean, SaaS Alerts, this company certainly does it. And I hope our MSPs do it. But how many of your clients actually, accept the fact that they should be putting their employees through training every single year, at least, and running phishing training campaigns?
Right.
So is there a human resources cost here, Andrew? Do you think? How about the person who clicked on this email and caused this mess? What do you do with them?
Well, it's not just HR, yeah, right, Chip? You have HR. What about communications and PR, if it is, right? So you have all these potential external, but talk to us about what you're thinking on HR costs, Chip.
Well, I'm thinking that, if you're the small business owner, this section is why would clients care, right? You're a small business owner, you have 50 employees, and let's say you have put your team through anti-malware and anti-phishing training, and nevertheless here's your controller that goes ahead and clicks on an email, gets caught up in this phishing scam and is costing your company pounds of money. Well, now you got an HR dilemma on your hands. If you don't fire them, you've got a problem with your customer or customers because you've got a reputational issue to deal with. If you do fire them, you got to find somebody else and you have the whole HR cost again going along with it. If you don't fire them, they stay there and you have a morale issue. If you do fire them, they're gone and you have a morale issue. Like those are hard to quantify in terms of what they cost you in dollars, but they can have a big impact on your business.
Sure. Yeah. It's like, what if that happens to me now? Am I getting fired if I click on something?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you have the whole external comms piece. If it is, and these are just interesting questions, right? To pose to your customer. Hey, I got a question for you. Don't take it as FUD. Don't take it as fear. If there was an incident, talk to me about who's in charge. Walk me through. You find out someone wired $40,000 to the wrong place. Walk me through the process. What do you do? Who do you call? Who's in charge?
I'll speak up if nobody else will. First call is to your bank. Your client's first call is to their bank. Find out where that money went.
But I would say probably the first call, Chip, is, yes to the bank, but also if it is an attack on you, right? I'd probably want to know the extent of the attack too, right away. Right. So you got to
Helen, call IT. Since we're in the Helen says call IT, since we're why would your clients care section. We're putting ourselves in the mindset of the clients, call IT.
Right. And so great point. So Helen, you bring up an awesome point, call IT. Right. So this now is important for you guys to think about. Right. I'm going to just put this in here. I know it's not why they care, but let's just pull this a little further. Call IT. So my question to you guys is, in your scopes of work or your MSA, wherever you lay things out, is it clear when something is covered as an IT issue and a security incident? Is that crystal clear? Because if it's not, who's paying for assessing? Do we have more, again, the best of the best I've seen have really clear communication and walk through their clients about where they'll take something to, when they'll bring in a third party to evaluate. If that third party comes in, there is a charge outside of their managed service agreement. So this is for you guys to look at as well, because I would bet the majority of MSPs, if this happens at a client, true or false, who are they calling and who are they thinking is going to handle it? Who are they thinking is going to handle the security incident? I'm assuming we're getting yeses that Michelle, that the MSP?
Yes, the MSP.
Right. So here's my question to you guys. How clear is this? Who are they going to blame? Right. You could be jumping back up and down about MFA. Now, granted, there's an MFA proxy, way to get around MFA here, but let's say MFA prevented it. Let's say they didn't have SaaS alerts. You're recommending all these things. Again, I just had a breach attorney on the other day, really good webinar. How well documented is it? And I'm not saying you have to have somebody sign off, press 3 times, and here's your copy, because that can start a very adversarial issue with your customer. However, and I'm not saying don't do it if that's your flavor. However, you do want to put it documented in an email to them that we discussed this, and this. You decided to do this, and this. All right. Chip, how could have SaaS alerts helped in this? Because like what I'm hoping is we put together something, and then at the end, also like, so how could SaaS alerts have helped in some of these in Greatness's attack?
Well, so let's first off talk about where the blind spot is, because I think it's important to acknowledge it for everybody.
Right.
Neither if the phishing campaign email slips through both Microsoft or Google or whoever the product is, this is obviously a tool that's aimed at Microsoft. If it slips through their filters, we're SaaS alerts itself can't stop it either at that point. So the user is presumably already clicked on this link. So the first place we can help, if you jump down to number 2, is signaling and warning you if you've got this login activity and this MFA activity occurring from a region of the world where it shouldn't be, where it's not authorized based upon the settings you have for that individual user or that organization in SaaS alerts.
Yeah, that's right.
The next help after that is the account behavior analysis side, looking at what's going on with email rules being configured. So just say account behavior, email account. Yep. Number 4, account behavior on file activity. And again, I think the most recent or the highest profile of the most recent compromises that SaaS alerts identified, was picked up specifically in that file activity account behavior component. There were emails involved in that, but they were low and slow, and they really didn't trip the trigger. It was the file activity increases that really picked that up.
Sure.
So, file activity covers obviously download, sharing, and deletes. Those are the big ones that you're going to be watching for. And then granting of access to different resources, in the company that haven't been there before. So if you're seeing group policy changes, in particular around SharePoint or Teams, that are unexpected, in this company, it's a pretty stable environment. That would be your next indicator that you've got a compromised account.
Awesome.
And I think that's a pretty solid list. I mean, you can use any and all of that in combination to build respond rules. Certainly also looking for logins that are occurring at, random and strange times. If you got a company that everybody logs off at 5 p.m. Eastern and doesn't log back in until 9 o'clock the next day, and somebody's banging away and there's a lot of activity on an account at midnight, another reason for you to be suspicious.
Yeah. Really good stuff. So I know we're at the top of the hour. And Ben, thanks for putting in the links, by the way. Trying to play catch up here. And I'm just curious, would anybody, if we, push something out to you, would you do a PowerPoint with your customer and tell us how it went? Who would do that? Chuck?
So our one of our customers actually reached out to us about doing tabletops and kind of lunch and learns and everything. So we would.
Awesome, Ben. Ben, I'm curious the why. You typically don't hear a client go, "Hey Ben, we'd love to do a tabletop." Was it financial service? Was it financial services, or someone that goes to an audit where that's a component, for example?
Nope, there's a law firm. I think we have our quarterly meetings with them and show them what they've done as far as their education, and after a certain amount of time, that kind of dwindles off. People can only watch so many videos about, security before they just start ignoring them. We've seen that kind of across the board, like not just in that industry, but almost all of our customers. The education, the amount of people taking it goes down, and the amount of successful phishing simulation goes up. So, as MSPs, we can't force them to watch them. We can't reprimand them and say, you're going to get fired. But we can just show them that. But I think anybody that looks at those reports knows the value of somebody actually coming in and doing it in person. We've done, this will probably be like our second one. We did another one kind of just talking about good internet hygiene as a lunch and learn for a investment company. They invited their clients in, and we got there, and it was mostly seniors, and we're like, obviously we're not going to get any business off of this. We don't do residential, but we did it because it puts goodwill out into the community and kind of paints you as a security expert.
Very good. Ben, by the way, I put in there, and any of you that with law firm clients, a great case study that you might want to model for potential tabletop as well. This is the law firm that got compromised. And it's a really good case study, really interesting one. All right, Jim, we're at the top of the hour. That went quick.
Sure did.
Chip, as always, thank you for co-hosting that with me. That was awesome. Jim, any closing comments? Welcome back.
Thanks. Great to be back, and looking forward to seeing everybody next week. It's funny, these tabletops are great from a selling perspective, and we've had a lot of MSPs be successful with them. So highly recommend taking advantage of this content.
Yeah. Jim, are you in a closet? No, I think it's just the angle, Helen. However, we're going to have Jim.ai next week.
Yes.
So, all right. Until
Bye,
then, guys, have a fantastic Thursday and weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.